Hello. Thank you for joining us today for the National Public Lands Day social media webinar. You might see on your screen that we have some questions up. We're running a poll, and if you could just take a couple minutes to answer these questions, we would appreciate it. We'll use these answers to help tailor our conversation with you today. We're very excited to talk with you today about how to best tap into the latest social media tips and tricks to make the most of the 20th anniversary of National Public Lands Day. My name is Lynn Miller with 4Green Peas, and I'll be your moderator today. We have some fabulous experts joining us. First, we have Nancy Helpman from Virginia State Parks and Tracy Adams from Public Lands Every Day. Nancy is the Visitor Services. Was that you, Nancy, saying hello?
No, but I can. Hello.
we thought we heard you, so that's good. Nancy is responsible for managing the major program areas of marketing, volunteerism, visitor experience, and reservations. But most of you know her by the title Social Media Evangelist. She was responsible for building a social media presence for Virginia State Parks way back in the olden days of 2008. And like most of you, as you heard, Nancy has a lot of other responsibilities besides social media. So some of the tips she's going to share with us today have to do with how you can manage to appear like you do it all and make it easy. Also joining us is Tracy Adams. She's the Senior Program Associate for Public Lands Every Day at the National Environmental Education Foundation. And many of you know Tracy as the voice behind the NPLD and the Public Lands Day Twitter accounts and Facebook pages. We also just wanted to mention that we're very sorry that Ken Soderberg of Montana State Parks was unable to join us as we had planned because he is dealing with an emergency cleanup after a flood at a historical state park. If you haven't taken the poll yet, I'm just going to direct your attention again to those poll questions and ask if you could just answer them very quickly. And do we have any results yet that we can share? Okay, so this is interesting. We have about a third of you using social media multiple times a day. Then we have almost 20% using it weekly or multiple times a day. And some answers are still coming in, so these are changing. But what I see right now is at least half of the group is on social media an awful lot. And then we've got a significant minority, about 26%, half of whom use it monthly, and half of whom have really not used social media before, and this is going to be your first experience. And then we have some shy people. We have about a third of you haven't answered. So if you haven't answered, go ahead, take the poll. And let's see if we have the answer to can we see the second question?
Oh, we don't have the second.
We don't have the second one up? Oh, well, stay tuned. We'll have another question for you later. So as I just mentioned, unfortunately Ken wasn't able to join us, but for those of you who haven't yet had a chance to look at it, there is another archived webinar that we ran last year that has a lot of great tips from Ken. You might want to check that out, and that's available up on the Public Lands Day resources site. As for today's webinar, we'll be focusing on the big three social media networks: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, as well as the new kids on the block like Instagram, Vine, and Flickr. The resources page that I mentioned, if you can just go back one slide, includes details about the media toolkit, which we've prepared for you. It has a lot of very specific tips about how to make the most of this year's event, which is very special because, again, it is the 20th anniversary. And then also we have the social media webinar that I just mentioned, which was recorded last year on the 29th of August. So just to get started, let's review, especially for the third or so of you who are fairly new to social media, why are we making such a big deal of this? Why is social media so important? Well, what we have seen through our past experience is that effective use of social media definitely encourages participation in the event. It spreads the word not only to people who can come and visit, but also to partners who can help us get those park visitors out to the parks volunteering on the day of the event. It enables us to engage with people both before, during, and after. And of course, we're raising awareness of local public lands issues and really trying to hook people in and build a regular audience for the parks. And again, that will be a lot of what we talk about today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tracy, who is going to talk with you about social media strategy.
Thank you, Lynn, for that introduction. Again, for everyone for joining us. So when you're starting your social media strategy, the first thing to do is identify what your program plans to achieve with social media. So do you want to drive followers to volunteer? Do you want your followers to come to your actual volunteer events? Do you want to increase traffic to your website? And sorry, I'm just moving a little bit. I hope everyone can hear me because we got a couple comments. So just let us know in the comment section if you're unable to hear me. And then the second thing to identify is, what your goals are, and then thirdly is who's your target audience. So who do you want to reach out to? It might be, your current volunteers or, people that, your partners, your sponsors, if you want to reach out to new people or just anyone in your community. And then the fourth thing to decide is to what social media platforms you want to use. And there's a ton of resources out there, and the most important thing is to realize you don't need to be on all of them. It's better to be on one or two accounts and do a great job of those than to be on 7 and not have enough time to, effectively manage all of them. So, pick your favorites, pick the ones that work for you the best. You can, try to experiment with that and see where your voice has the most carry. And then the fifth thing to determine is who's going to establish and maintain the networks. And it's always good to have someone who has a lot of experience doing social media or kind of knows how to deal with marketing to be involved in that.
And this is Lynn jumping in, and this is where don't despair if you're one of those people who haven't done this before. At the end of the webinar, we're going to give you Tracy's contact information, and you will be able to reach out to the speakers today and get help even after the webinar. So you'll have your own experts on call.
Yes, thanks for that, Lynn. And then the next point is to decide what kind of content you're sharing. Photos are huge. Photos usually draw a lot of traction to your to your message. It's eye-catching. And so try to have a photo that kind of fits what the content is that you're describing. And for example, for the NPLD, the webinar that you're on now, we had our intern make this great graphic for us, and it kind of showcases exactly what it's going to be. So people can just look at the image and they immediately know what the post is about, and it encourages them to, read more and click the links, which drives traffic back to your website and draws interest in, your park or your events. And then the seventh thing to look at is how are you going to evaluate your success? And it's pretty easy to do because you can see how your follower or your audience, your fan count increases, as well as on Twitter you can see your retweets, your mentions, and then on Facebook it's termed as your shares and your likes. And as well as Facebook has this really great insight section, so you can kind of see, which posts have the most reach and, how people are engaging with them. Are they sharing them or are they clicking the links? And there's all sorts of little pie charts that describe all of these, and they go into a lot of detail on that. So now we're going to move on to the next slide, and I'm just going to show you an example of the NPLD Facebook page. And so as you can see, there's a great spot for your cover photo, and that's the first thing people are going to see when they come to your page. So you want to have it make sure that it identifies what you're involved with, and or if you have any particular initiatives that are going on, like a photo contest or an event, you can also put text in your photo too. And the other good things to notice are right above the, it's called a cover photo. Right below that, you have these little boxes, and people can see how many fans you have, as well as click through to get to your photos and see upcoming events. So it's a really great spot to put things that mean the most to your page, and you can modify those boxes and switch around the order and remove some of them. You basically can put any 4 boxes that you'd like up there. And so our next slide that we're going to go to is of the Twitter account for the Virginia State Parks. And this just shows an example of what a Twitter account looks like, and we wanted to highlight one of our partners to give an example of how you can use this there's a background photo, so it does showcase a lot of what's going on at the Virginia State Parks, as well as right up there's a little blurb defining, showcasing what all the Virginia State Parks are about and the type of content that you're going to see on this page. And then next up, we're going to move on to talking about specific social media for NPLD 20. And what we're asking everyone to do is to use the hashtag NPLD 20 to share what they're doing for NPLD for our 20th anniversary, and just highlight what's going on at their parks. And you can start using that now, or you can use it closer to your event. And Facebook now does allow the use of hashtags, and so you can feel free to use that on Facebook or Twitter. And then on YouTube, that is also where we have videos. We'll have our upcoming PSA there, and we also have videos of past cleanups that have occurred, or past events that have occurred on National Public Lands Day. I know in 2011, Montana State Parks made a great one, and there's a whole bunch of those. You can see them on our playlist. So that's another great feature about YouTube, is that you can add playlists of your videos, as well as if your partners have any videos, you can add their videos to that list. So it's a great way to showcase, what's going on with just you, as well as what your partners or other volunteers are doing to help you out. And then the next thing that we have is to help out to promote your NPLD events. We have our 20 stories for 20 years, and that's a new feature that you can see. You can see where our drop down is on going to that. Can you? So those are the items that we have, and basically what it is, it's various lists. And it's kind of like a top 20 list, and it deals with various different topics. So for an example, what we have, one of them going on right now is 20 public lands everyday events. And then as every other week, we'll be adding more and more of the top 20 lists. And then in September, we start doing it every week. And then 3 days before NPLD, we'll have a new list every day. So it's a great way to look for upcoming stuff. Things that are going on with NPLD.
And that's really terrific to have that new content being pushed out every day, because I think one of the things we heard last year is it can often be challenging to come up with something new to say every day. And so people will have that content right there, and they can just cut and paste and use it to update Facebook and Twitter or whatever other network that they're on.
And as you can see, we just moved the slides to showcase what that page looks like. And you can find the most recent post up there first. And this is, I can mention that, an upcoming list for August is 20 public lands where kids can learn. So I'd encourage you to look through these lists, because we are mentioning, all of some past parks in there, so your park could definitely be on that list. And if you do have anything that's going on that you think would make a good top 20 list, you're welcome to contact us. And my contact information will be up at the end of this presentation. All right, if you could just go to the next slide, please. We're going to showcase how a partner used one of our 20 lists. And this is from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and we had a top 20 list of 20 July 4th events that were going on. So it just showcases how, you can use these resources that we made. Like, say your park is mentioned on one of them, you're welcome to, just be like, hey, we're in the NPLD top 20 list. Check this out. It's item number 17. So it's just a great way to increase your reach, too. And if you'll notice, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service did tag us in that post, and so we can identify that, they shared it and thank them for it. That's another important thing to always do, is to thank anyone who's sharing your content. And as you can see on the bottom, we had a little conversation going on. So that was really nice to have, that engagement level. And, when you do comment on the post, you will get an increase. You'll be able to, your feed will get pushed to the top because there are 2 views you can have on Facebook. You can view posts in the order that they were posted, or you can view the most popular ones. So it's always good to, comment on things. The next we're going to look at is our Twitter account. If you could just go to the next slide, please. And that kind of showcases our top one is how we used a list that we had made in May that was identifying events to do in the summer. And what you can do is you can share the content multiple times without having the same exact tweet. You can start to pull out, certain things. And in this one, we mentioned that movies on the National Mall were coming up. And, there's a bunch of parks around the country, like Atlanta and Chicago, that do a special thing in a park. They'll showcase a movie. Usually it's for free. So it's just a great way to be able to use the content, far after it's posted. This was posted in May, and then we shared an upcoming event that was happening in July. And if you could just go to the next slide, please. And a new initiative that we have going on now is from Instagram. It's really skyrocketed in the past year in terms of how many people are using it. It's a great way to showcase your photos. And it kind of works a little bit like Twitter, in which you can create hashtags for that. So we'd encourage you to, use the NPLD 20 hashtag, as well as hashtags for your own park, or if it's a volunteer event, you can do that as well.
In fact, Tracy, isn't it the case that you can send these Instagram photos out right over Twitter as well? So they'll show up in Twitter feeds. Even if you don't have your own Instagram account, you can still see the photos.
Exactly. As long as an account is public, you can share that content on your own Facebook or Twitter accounts. So it's a great way to look at it. And what we're doing right now is I have 2 images shown up there, and on the left-hand side is how Twitter looks on a website, and then on the right-hand side is how Twitter looks on a mobile site. And
you mean Instagram, right?
I'm sorry, Instagram. Sorry about that. How Instagram looks on a mobile platform. And so it's just a really great way to showcase, everything that's going on with your parks in just images. And I'll mention the one caveat about this is I have noticed a couple Instagram accounts that put links up there, and you're welcome to put hyperlinks, but the content does not hyperlink, so someone would have to type in that URL. So you want to try to make sure to keep those short. And then if you would like to follow us on Instagram, our account is @PublicLandsEveryday. And then if you could just go, the next slide we're going to deal with is our Flickr page. And Flickr is another photo resource, and this is a great way to share high-res images, especially when you can't send them over email due to, it's too large for an account to receive or send. And this is also, you're welcome, all these photos are released. Our partners are welcome to use them anytime. And I will mention one new thing. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, it's kind of a red image. And we had a volunteer who has participated in NPLD for 19 out of the 20 years that we've been around, and he has a T-shirt from every event, which is awesome. So you can definitely see how the NPLD logo has changed over, the past 19 years that he's been involved. And it's just a great way to showcase kind of how long, this event has been going on and how many volunteers we've had throughout the years, enhancing and beautifying our public lands. So,
thank you so much, Tracy.
You're welcome.
So now we're going to open up the floor to your questions, and they've been rolling in, so keep them coming. Nancy's been quiet over there. We might give Tracy a little break because she's been talking, and let Nancy field some of these initial questions. Nancy, there's a question here about a personal Facebook account. It says, I have a personal Facebook account and I'm an administrator for 3 separate pages. How can I post a comment or like as the page name on someone else's page rather than as me?
Okay, that's a good question. If you notice on your Facebook page, at the very top, it's going to say you are posting, commenting, and liking as, and it will be your page name, and then it will say dash change to your personal name. So as long as you are on your page, when you're on your page, as long as it says you're liking and commenting and posting as your page, anything you do on that page you're doing as yourself. If you want to post as your personal self, you can just change it. Now, alternatively, if you want to go to somebody else's page and comment on them, the best way to do that is there's a little gear at the very top in the blue section, a little gear thing on the very far right side. And if you pull that down, you'll see use Facebook as. Just pick the page you want to use it as, and that will change you so that when you go to other pages, you'll be on that one and commenting on as that page.
Great.
Does that make sense?
I think so. Thank you so much, Nancy. We're also getting some questions about availability of the slides. And absolutely, we're not only going to have the slides, we're going to have a complete recording of this webinar, and that will be posted up on the resources section of the website. Also, already up on that site, as we mentioned before, is a copy of last year's webinar. We had a question that came in regarding YouTube versus Vimeo. And, which is really the right way to go? I know we've talked about YouTube today, but people keep hearing about Vimeo. Can you answer that, Tracy?
Sure. So YouTube is the best network for sharing any video under 10 minutes. Vimeo tends to be used by people and organizations sharing longer forms of videos. So that would be just the best answer for that one. And you can, if you go to different YouTube and Vimeo pages, you can definitely, see that difference on them.
I think there are also some agencies and organizations that are concerned about what kind of ads might pop up during videos because you really can't control that a lot with YouTube. So some people prefer Vimeo because you can exclude those. The problem is the whole world is on YouTube. So if you want people to stumble on your video, then you probably want to be on YouTube. If you're sending them to the video, then Vimeo, it wouldn't matter if you used Vimeo. But I do know that there's some people that prefer Vimeo just because they can limit the advertising that appears on the videos. Although I think most people in the world understands that you don't put those ads there, but there are some people that are very sensitive about that. So that's why they prefer Vimeo.
So I know that last year Ken talked a little bit about how they were using YouTube in Montana, and he mentioned the fact that he was always very careful to tag the videos and fill out information appropriately so that the videos would turn up in search. Have there been any changes in YouTube over the past year or Vimeo in terms of tagging, or is that one network that at least has remained somewhat constant, unlike Facebook and some of the others?
I'll just chime in now, and then if Nancy has anything else to add, she's welcome to do that. But I do think that YouTube is one of the ones that's pretty much remained constant in terms of what you can do on it and tagging and features like that. The layout has changed a little bit, but the basic way that it works has remained the same.
We also had a question about public records requests. Nancy, maybe you can help with this one. How do you handle those public record requests? Some of the states, like someone from Florida mentioned, they've got really strict sunshine laws and they have to maintain everything.
Right. Well, that's kind of that's always a challenge. Right now, Facebook, everything on Facebook is still there. So you can, sometimes it might take a long time to go back to something, but for now, Facebook has all your content on there. However, there's two tools, and I have to confess, I am subscribing to them, but I haven't tried to extract anything from them yet. So you'll have to take what I'm telling you with a grain of salt. But for Twitter, there's a tool called that Norton Utilities does called Ditto, D-I-T-T-O, so ditto.norton.com. And they used to do Facebook as well, but they got out of the Facebook business. Although I think you might still be able to do your personal Facebook profile, although that's not very helpful for what we need. But for Facebook, there's a service called Backupify. So it's backupify.com. So backupify.com. Now, I've been recording my Facebook page, and I tried to extract it today so that I could tell you something, and I had trouble opening the file. So, as I said, that's why I think you might have to play with it some. But those are services that have been set up to do that. Twitter is a little bit harder. If you don't save your Twitter feed, that does go away. Even in Twitter search, you can only, depending on how much you do on Twitter, it doesn't stay around for very long. Although supposedly the Library of Congress is finding a way to save all the tweets. I'm not sure how you'd ever find them, but but that's a way to do that. I will tell you that either the Virginians really don't ask for a lot of stuff under FOIA, but we have never had a FOIA request that impacted our social media in the 5 years we've been doing it. So, of course, that's not to say that won't happen tomorrow. So.
Okay, thank you so much, Nancy. We've also opened the poll with the second question, and that really just pertains to whether or not you were able to watch last year's webinar. It's going to help us to know if we should go back and review any of those sections or not. If you could take a look at that. Regarding going back to what you were just saying, Nancy, about saving tweets and being able to access them, that's such an important point because many of us from time to time are asked to kind of prove the effectiveness of our social media or point out something interesting that happened. And I know that one thing some people do is they go out and grab a screenshot of a particularly important tweet, like if someone very influential in the community or a member of the media sent something out, you might just want to grab that and save it, or even grab the link and email it to someone. Do you happen to know if you favorite a tweet, if you put I think there's a little heart or a little star you can use, do you know if that's saved for a longer period of time?
If you favorite Nancy, if you want to take this one, because I know you're
actually, I don't know right off the top of my head. I was going to look to see. so if you do, go ahead.
Sure, I do know. For my account, when I do favorite a tweet, it's saved it's there whenever I go to look at my favorite list. So that is a good way if you want to look at, if you want to relook at a link or something, or just have content that someone really mentioned that was great. You can favorite it to save it.
Exactly, and that's another great way to show that you are listening to the audience. Tracy and Nancy have been talking a lot about thanking people and responding. Another way to do that is if you favorite someone's tweet, it literally means that you thought that was great, and they see that. So that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, and you're right. I'm looking back. I can go all the way back into 2009 with my favorite tweets. So.
Wow, that is a long way.
Although I have to say I don't favor a lot. When I do find something that's really interesting or I feel like I have to save it, I do a screen print type thing. And I actually don't use the Twitter tool directly. I use a desktop manager called Hootsuite. There are others like that as well. So, but that is a nice way to do it, and it is often I'll do it if I am going to click on a link. One of the things that I find with Twitter is that we have a lot of followers. So if I'm looking at my Twitter stream, it moves quickly. So if I click on a link to read it, and then I want to go back and retweet it, I have a hard time finding the original tweet. So sometimes I will favor something for that reason as well. So that's another thing that you can do. But we did have recently. I had a Twitter person, a person on Twitter who was complaining about other people that we followed. He was on one political spectrum, and he thought that we were following people on the other extreme opposite of the other side of the political spectrum. And so it was very helpful that we had a social media policy. My social media policy is that we follow just about everybody back unless they appear to be a spammer, or if I can't tell what they are because they haven't filled out their profile enough, I might not follow them back. But we have a policy of following people back. So we're not Lady Gaga. We want to be inclusive, and there is, I don't know how familiar with, I don't want to get into the woods too much, but when you get to have 2,000 followers, if you are following too many people that don't follow back, you'll be limited on how many people you can follow. So we firmly believe that we should follow back people that follow us. So when I gave him that, there really wasn't much more to say. So yes, I might be following somebody that's liberal and he's conservative, but that's, if our policy is we follow everybody, then there isn't really any complaint.
That's a great description of your policy. Thank you so much, Nancy. And
You're
after
welcome.
all, public lands are for everyone's enjoyment, right?
Yes.
One of the great things about what we do. We've got a question here. This is interesting. Nancy, maybe you want to take this one as well. Can you discuss Tumblr and the My Public Land site?
I'm sorry, what?
Tumblr and the My Public Land site.
Okay. We have a Tumblr blog, but it's not one that we spend an awful lot of time on. And frankly, I haven't checked out the one. Tracy, I don't even know what you guys have.
Sure, I can answer this. National Public Lands Day and the National Environmental Education Foundation do not have a Tumblr account, but Tumblr is another great way. It's formatted like a blog, and a good example of that one is the My Public Lands Tumblr account, which is run by the Bureau of Land Management. And it does a great job of showcasing like your photos, and people can reblog, reshare, retweet it. So it's a way to cross-promote your photos and messaging across a wide variety of social media. And you can also have hyperlinks in that do click through. It looks very similar to what Instagram looks like on the mobile platform, except the hyperlinks will work. And you can reblog, repost, retweet, reshare, basically every single possible method to do that, as well as copy the direct URL to that post. Okay. And so I would encourage everyone, if you would like to see a really great example, to look at the My Public Lands Tumblr from BLM, and last year they did a social media meetup with us, which just encouraged everyone to tag their posts with NPLD, and if anyone is involved in that this year, we definitely encourage you to tag your photos with hashtag NPLD20.
Great. Thank you so much. I am so glad that we did that poll, because we found out that very few of you have watched the webinar recently. In my own mind, I've got some highlights from last year's that I'm going to ask Nancy to recap. And one of them has to do, Nancy, with how you, leading up to Public Lands Day, how you came up with last year, how you came up with some special days that you use throughout the year, like certain things that you did every day of the week as part of your outreach on the networks. And I just wondered if you're doing this, continuing to do the same things, or if you've mixed it up this year.
Yes, that's a good question. We, because we have 36 state parks, and we have obviously lots of programs and events going on all the time, and because we are thinly staffed, we don't have individual social media accounts for all of those parks. So we decided that we would emphasize national or significant state events and have programming at all of our parks to support them. So National Public Lands Day is one of the ones that we use. We do something for 9/11. We do the National Trails Day. We also have, with the Chesapeake Bay has Clean the Bay Day, which is actually the same day as National Trails Day. We get Outdoors Day. We also do Great American Backyard Campout. So basically all of the outdoor-related national events, we try to work with the people that are running those programs. And so basically what we're doing is piggybacking on their marketing that they're doing for their programming that people may see in other places, and then just bringing state parks into it. We also do some, typical things, Mother's Day, Father's Day, other holidays. But generally, we already have a ton of people in our parks on Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July, so we don't have to go out of our way to do that. So when we're having those special days, we come up with a campaign where we'll do a blog post, which is how we develop our content, and we will put those on all of our social media sites, and we will sometimes, depending on how big an event it is, I will put some extra money into Facebook for an ad to promote the post, so that we now have over 50,000 followers on Facebook. But often, most of our posts, we're lucky if 10,000 people see it. So by spending a couple $100, I can make sure that I get those numbers up and exceed the number of people that are followers. I have played around with Twitter advertising some too, but I haven't felt as quite as successful yet. But we also, I will run a Twitter campaign, because there are several tools for scheduling tweets in Twitter, so that you can sit down and come up with the ones that you're going to run and plan them out for a 2-week period or 10 days or however long your campaign's going to be, to try to and have them tweet multiple times during the day so people can see them. They have to be different. The tool I use, Hootsuite. Hootsuite has a scheduling tool, and every tweet has to be a little bit different in order to use that tool, unless I run the tool a couple of times. But Twitter's policy is that you can't have virtually the same tweet 2 times in a row without intervening tweets. So you have to be a little careful about repeating the same content. But we found that this is very effective, so we basically have a campaign leading up to the special day event, and that's what we're planning to do for National Public Lands Day too. And that one at least has the advantage that June is really busy, because we've got almost every weekend in June. In fact, there is one of our special days, so it's a little bit hard to get too far out in front of those days when you're promoting them. Otherwise, you'll run into each other. But the National Public Lands Day, because it's in September, that works out really well.
Terrific. Tracy, we have a question here about that Flickr account that you mentioned. Could you give everyone the name of that again, please?
Sure. Sorry that I did not put that on there. Let me just pull it up in 1 second.
And while she's pulling that up, I'll address another question. Someone was asking about when the webinar will be made available, and we expect that to be up within a week. And I also want to say that even though we're going back and we're reviewing some of the stuff from last year, if you can't get enough of this, you have more questions, I'd really encourage you to listen, especially because Ken brought a really interesting perspective from Montana, and sadly we're missing him today. So it's worth hearing his perspective on things too. Nancy, last year you also spoke about the frustrations with getting your updates out on Facebook. The fact that even though you may put something up there, it may not show up in people's news feeds, and some of the changes that Facebook had made in that regard. Can you address that and maybe talk a little bit about the new timeline too? Because that's something that just came up.
Yeah, that is unfortunate. Once upon a time, when you posted on your Facebook page, most of your fans saw saw the post. And that's probably true if you're, I think if you have less than 2,000 fans, you probably are getting a way higher percentage. But when you get to be, up into the higher dimensions of number of fans, it's almost like you get a little penalized from Facebook. And what basically they want you to do, my feeling and the feeling of other Facebook folks, is that basically they're pushing you into the payment mode. And we have done quite a bit with Facebook ads. And I think the thing that's most effective is to promote the post. And it's not just to your fans, it's also to friends of your fans. And that does get the word out a little better if it's something. I mean, I don't do that for all of our posts. I only do that for really special events, and I think that's a little bit effective. Generally, looking back at some of our posts, we are running, sometimes depending on how many times we post a day, and you will find if you post more than 3 times a day, you're going to probably be penalized with reach on that as well. But if you look at your admin panel, it's telling you how many people you reached. And I'm looking at some of our better posts, we might hit 11,000 people, 10,000 people. And again, that's the number of people that it appeared in their news feed. Again, that doesn't necessarily say that they actually read it. So that's you can get some of the other analytics out of Facebook to see how that works. But what we do is we have an e-newsletter, so we encourage people to subscribe to that because we share a lot of the same content on all of our platforms, and that way if people miss it on Facebook, they might be able to catch it somewhere else. So, and the same thing with, we really do share all of our content on all of our social media sites. I've sat through a lot of social media webinars where they tell you that you should cater your post to the social media site and not do that, but you've got limited people developing content that I don't feel that that's particularly practical, and I've never had anybody complain that they saw something on more than one site. I think it's something that people
You're
expect.
so right, Nancy, because those general webinars are really geared to a mass audience. Some of them are geared to for-profit companies, and I think that that's really the neat thing about today is hearing your experiences. What you've done and how you've managed it and how Tracy works this is directly relevant to everyone on this call. So this is kind of the real deal.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of those webinars. I get a lot of information, but you're right. You do have to take it kind of with a grain of salt because a lot of them are direct salespeople and people that are selling a one-on-one product, which is not at all what we do. So
right. In fact, I think a great thing we could do here today, just thinking about how we can all support each other, is we were sending out tweets this morning with the NPLJ20 hashtag, and anyone on this call today, and there are a lot of you, please retweet those, respond, then we'll meet you. Tell us what you thought of the webinar, leave a comment on the Facebook page, and we'll be social media buddies and support each other. That's what it's all about.
That's a great idea.
We've got another really specific question here saying, if I can't, as a Facebook page, like another page, how can I create a hyperlink to that page on one of my own posts on my own page? And it says, P.S., the gear icon works even though you are using Facebook ads does not. And I guess looking at that, Nancy, I'm a little confused. I'm wondering why she couldn't like another page. Could it be a blocked page, or why would that be?
Yeah, I think the problem is that Facebook is going to default to you when you are liking a page normally. But if you go and use that little gear tool and say that you're operating as your page, you have to use the gear tool as opposed to having it just on your page where it says you're operating as your page. As soon as you leave your page, that doesn't apply anymore. It's going to assume it's you. So to make sure that it's your page, you need to use the gear tool, and it'll say right next to the gear what your default is. Like right now, I just changed mine. It says Virginia State Parks instead of Nancy Helpman. So now if I go to another page, I should be able to like that as myself, and I mean as the page as opposed to personally. And I'm pretty sure I already follow National Public Land Space, so that might not be helpful. But it's interesting. It won't. You're right. It won't let me do that. I wonder if that's something that's changed recently. That's weird. Hold on, I'm going to try something else here. Yeah, this might be something that Facebook has changed again.
Wow.
So let me see. So what was the question? Since now that I find out that we can't do what I thought I could do, sometimes I just want to shoot them.
Yeah, let me, it says, if I can't, as a Facebook page, like another page, how can I create a hyperlink to that page in one of my own posts on my own page? P.S. The gear icon works even though you are using Facebook as does not.
Right, okay. I think when you are actually typing an update in Facebook, it should let you type the @ symbol and the page name, and it will do a link. If not, you can actually paste the link to the page in there, and it will be like sort of like your content. So you can do that actually in an update.
Great.
I wonder if that answers your question.
And again, everyone, I just want to remind you at the end of the webinar, which is coming up, we've got less than 15 minutes. You'll have contact information for Nancy and Tracy, so you can feel free to reach out to them again if your questions were not answered. We're trying to
and I apologize for that. Facebook is really crazy. They change things and you don't even know they changed them. Like I have been using picture sizes that I've had for a while. Like for instance, the cover photo, which is 851 pixels by 315. There's also a specific dimension if you want to highlight the post, which means the picture goes all the way across the page instead of the half page. And the other day I used those dimensions, which was 843 by 403, and the bottom of the picture got cut off. So that tells me Facebook has changed that again. They didn't bother saying anything. So, and then trying to hunt down what the right dimension is not easy because you'll pull up a whole bunch of content that may be from various other versions that Facebook updated. So it's hard to get the most recent one. So that's the one thing about Facebook. Something that worked yesterday may not work today, and you really don't even understand why. So
with that, and with that in mind, we have one more webinar coming up. We'll give you the date for that at the end of the webinar, and if there's some major change, we'll probably mention that too, but it's going to focus primarily on media tips. So there's another good question here. It says, I use my own Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts to post and repost content to my friends. So do we enter into each of these social media sites under different username passwords to post and repost content relating to the national parks? Do you want me to read that again, Nancy?
No, I'm looking at it. I'm not exactly sure. So you mean your own personal Facebook profile and your personal Twitter? I'm not. I just.
Yes. Hello.
So, yes.
Hello. Yes. I do use these social media sites in order to post and repost content to my friends, and basically, it's what we do seems similar to what I do, just on a more personal note. Do we just access besides through like a different username to post and repost our own content to the public?
Okay, I'm still having trouble. So yeah, you can share anything on your personal accounts that you see on another site, and actually that's the wonderful thing that you do, because when Facebook, one of the ways Facebook determines whether or not you get reach to your customers, your fans, it's by how many people are liking the post, sharing the post, and commenting on the post. Commenting being the most significant one. The more comments you get, the better. Shares is another big factor. Likes are important, but not as important as the other two. So when you actually go in and share that with your fans and your friends, and hopefully they will share as well, that really helps. First of all, that's what creates the viral posts, but it also helps the person that you like get the word out to people that are not necessarily fans. So that's the best way to help do that. Now, what I'm not sure is, so you're saying you have, are you an organization, or are you a place, or so you don't have your own company or organization page? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know if he can respond. Malcolm,
Oh, okay. Okay, so I guess that might be a question. I think that's going to require some back and forth questions. So maybe if he wants to email me at nancy.heltzman@dcr.virginia.gov, I'll be glad to do that. I can give him my phone number. He can call me if he wants. So when there's a lot of back and forth like that, I have to kind of get an idea of what he's asking, so I can answer it right.
Okay. That is fine. So here's a good question. I'm going to try to get to one, just maybe two or three more questions before we wrap up. So there've been some mentions about tweeting content multiple times. There's some concern. Do people need to worry about that being regarded as spam, Nancy, and that followers could possibly get annoyed and stop following?
I think as long as the tweet is a little different, I think your customers aren't going to be that upset about it. I tell you, one of the things that we do is we tweet every program that we have 10 days in advance. And I will tell you, in the summertime, that's a lot of tweets. And occasionally I will get one of our Twitter followers that complains about too much. And I'll just say that it's the only way we have of getting the programs out to people. And, I may have lost some followers over the years because we do that. But for special programs that are coming up, you have to remember that Twitter is more in the moment than Facebook. Facebook, you can go back and look at, you can go down and go a couple of days into your news feed to see what you missed. Twitter, that's really not practical unless you're only following one or two people on Twitter. So there are people that do Twitter at different times during the day. So to reach all of those people, if you're just based in the United States, I'd say at least 3 or 4 times a day, the morning, the afternoon, maybe the early evening and the later evening, there are to reach the people that follow you. That you can make it not so spammy by changing, having the same link but changing the tweet. So, for instance, we did one of the things we did for Thanksgiving was to tweet about National Public Lands for Thanksgiving, that we're thankful for our public lands. I made up 3 or 4 tweets a day that were completely different, linking them to the link about our public lands. So sometimes you have to be a little clever. Sometimes you only have to change a couple of words to get a different thrust. So you can certainly do that. Twitter's policy is you can't tweet the exact same tweet twice in a row without tweeting in between. So as long as you can even tweet say for 2 or 3 days, completely different tweets, and then start them again. And Twitter is just so, except for people that only follow 2 or 3 people, they're never probably even going to notice that you're duplicating tweets. If you have an audience that's international, you might want to even think about, tweeting in 2 a.m., 5 a.m. our time, because there could be, if you're trying to reach people in Great Britain or whatever, or Australia, you're going to want to make sure you include them. And that probably doesn't apply to any of us. But, that's I think, considered pretty much standard for people, and I don't think it's considered spam.
Okay. Thank you so much. In the meantime, I don't know if anyone noticed in the chat window, we sent out the link. Anna, who is the program manager for Public Lands Every Day, has been keeping us organized behind the scenes, doing a stellar job. Anna, thank you so much. And she sent out the link to the Flickr account, which is, in fact, Public Lands Day.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask if we can go to the next slide and just start to wrap up here and talk a bit about the following one. Yep. Talk a bit about the webinars that are upcoming. So on the 21st of August, from 2 to 3 Eastern, we will have a webinar called Getting the Word Out, National Public Lands Day Communications Tools. And as part of that webinar, we will go over a media toolkit that has been developed specifically for the 20th anniversary. We hope you'll really like it. We've got tweets that you can just cut and paste. We've really listened to your feedback from last year, and we've tried to make things as easy as possible because we know that none of you have the luxury of just doing this full time. You're all busy with other things too. There's also another great webinar on the resources page that you can view. It's called Crafting Success Stories to Generate Media Attention, and that was from June 26th. And then, of course, there's the other webinar we've mentioned so many times from August 29th, 2012. And then let's get this last slide up there because we've promised it so many times, and that is, well, actually there's one more. The Connect with NPLD, here was that Flickr address we were looking for. Remember to use all of these in your email signatures and also to make sure that they're prominent on your websites. If you just say to someone, connect with us on Facebook or Twitter, they may not know what your name is, and it's really annoying. So it may seem obvious, but make sure you've got that out there. So now let's go to the final slide with the contact information for Tracy and Nancy. And here you go. It's nancy.heltman, Heltman, at dcr.virginia.gov, and Tracy Adams, NPLD, at nefusa.org. And does everyone remember the homework? Are we going to see some tweets out there from all of our social media buddies with the hashtag NPLD20 and some Facebook tags? And we are really happy that you were able to join us. If you have, in addition to questions, any feedback on how we can continue to improve and give you the information that you need, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.